Nobody's saying it out loud, but one of these two legends is living on borrowed time, Harley-Davidson and KTM, and by late 2027, one of them won't be standing. I've spent weeks digging through dealer gossip, financial filings, and supply chain whispers. The numbers tell a brutal story. Your trade-in value, parts availability, whether that bike sitting in your garage turns into an expensive orphan nobody wants to touch. All of it hangs on which brand cracks first. Harley's bleeding its core touring base while jacking up prices. KTM's burning cash on constant updates that riders can't keep up with. One of these business models breaks before the decade's out. Stick with me till the end. You'll know exactly which brand still deserves your money and which one you should walk away from before it's too late. Who bleeds out first? If you had to bet your whole garage on one logo, making it past the year 2027, you would not start with paint or pipes. You would start with how the money really moves. Harley lives on big touring rigs, heavy cruisers, fat accessory margins, and a lifestyle machine that sells shirts almost as hard as it sells bikes. The plan is simple: fewer units, higher price per unit, stack on chrome, seats, exhausts, and a club feeling that keeps buyers in the family for decades. That model works only as long as riders accept those prices, and as long as the core touring customer keeps walking into the showroom ready to finance one more time. KTM plays a very different game. They live in brutally competitive performance segments. Middleweight and big bore machines, serious adventure platforms, hard enduro, track day toys with plates. The idea is volume across many narrow niches, with engineering that always feels one step sharper than the rivals. Margins on each bike are leaner, but the catalog stays wide. Where Harley leans on each big unit like a mortgage, KTM stacks many smaller bets that all depend on excitement. Both companies face heavy fixed costs: plants, tooling, engineers, global logistics. The big touring business struggles when demand slows, because you cannot just spin down that overhead. The performance business struggles when constant updates chew through cash before they ever pay back. If demand falls hard, Harley's model gets punished because every missed sale hits profit directly. If performance tastes change, KTM's reliance on costly updates hurts fast. The real weak design assumes riders keep paying premium money for heavy machines, while rates rise and younger buyers hesitate. You can slash race budgets quicker than you rebuild a full touring lineup entirely. Yet the weakness on paper only becomes fatal once the front line starts to lose faith. Floor plan panic. Walk into any multi-brand shop and listen, not to the sales pitch, but to the size. Dealers live on floor plan credit. They borrow to fill the showroom, then race the clock to move metal before interest eats the margin. When a crate rolls off the truck with the wrong logo, the owner does not see a dream, he sees risk. One bad bet can sit under the lights for months, bleeding money. For a dealer, a strong brand is one where bikes roll in, roll out, and parts keep the service bays full. A weak brand is inventory that needs heavy discounts, desperate add-ons, or guilty salesmen pushing a bike they would not ride themselves. When a name like Harley leans too hard on price, some dealers feel trapped. They take the bikes because the badge still pulls traffic, then slash margin just to keep floor plan interest from killing them. The result is quiet resentment. They start pushing clean used units instead, often older touring rigs that customers actually want to ride across the country. With KTM, the fear looks different. A row of sharp orange machines draws eyes, but not every town has enough hardcore buyers ready to drop cash on focused hardware. If those bikes hang around past the riding season, the dealer pays. That pain gets remembered. Next ordering cycle, they play safer and trim their commitment. Once you understand how the front line feels the pressure, you can see why a certain kind of product strategy becomes downright dangerous. If you want more straight talk on the bikes you actually ride, hit like, subscribe, and tell your story below. The update trap. KTM built its name on bikes that feel like they escaped a paddock with a plate bolted on at the gate. That edge is real. It also costs a fortune to maintain. Every few seasons, key platforms get a refresh. New frame tweaks, revised suspension, sharper electronics, weight shaved in grams, power nudged upward. In the catalog, it looks like progress. In the budget, it looks like a constant drain. Tooling, testing, homologation, racing support, marketing, None of that comes cheap, especially when segments like serious adventure or naked performance get more crowded every year. Race success feeds the machine. Wins sell bikes. And buyers in those segments want the sharpest tool, not a warmed-over leftover. That means short product lives. A model barely settles into the market before rumors of the next revision start swirling. Owners feel pressure to trade or mod just to stay current. The company feels pressure to keep investing, even when a segment cools a little. If one of those high-dollar launches stumbles, the damage runs straight into the next cycle. You already spent the engineering money. The plant already tooled up. The only choice is to discount, which poisons resale and trains buyers to wait. Over on the other side of the street, a very different problem has been building for years: losing the core. Harley has lived a long time on emotion, the sound, the look, the badge on the tank. For decades, that was enough to justify a heavy price tag on big touring rigs and chrome-rich cruisers. Riders worked overtime, signed long notes, and smiled every mile. As the years stacked up, a harsh shift crept in. The core touring base kept aging. Knees got weaker, backs got sore, and many riders parked the long-haul dreams. Younger riders coming up often looked at the price of a fresh big twin and simply walked away. At the same time, small design choices chipped at trust. Low-profile tires and stiffer seats aimed at style more than comfort. Extra gadgets and trim packages raised prices, without always adding long-distance usefulness. Veterans who know what a real cross-country machine should feel like started asking where the money was going. They still loved the idea of American iron, but love meets the bank statement at the dealership door. When a new rig costs more than a house in some towns, the question is not just, do I want it? The question is it worth it? Value doubt poisons any premium brand. When riders keep old tourers or buy two used rivals instead, Harley loses sales, loyalty, and long-term belief a new model deserves serious money. Margin reality check. If these companies were engines on a test bench, you would start by checking pressure and temperature, not paint and chrome. Harley brings in more total dollars because those big touring rigs and heavy cruisers carry thick price tags. Problem is, the growth line has flattened. Units are not climbing the way accountants like, so management leans harder on price and on accessories to hold the numbers together. Operating margin looks decent in good years, but it depends on squeezing every sale until it squeals. One soft season, one miss on a big platform, and that margin drops fast. KTM sits on the other side of the graph. Revenue is smaller overall, spread across more models and more segments. Operating margin has less fat on it, because those nimble performance bikes fight in crowded classes. R&D intensity bites harder for them too. A larger slice of every euro goes straight back into engineering, testing, and racing support. That pays off when the bikes win and fly out of showrooms, yet it means they carry less cushion. Where Harley tries to defend a high margin per unit, KTM tries to keep volume running hot enough to feed the machine. You see the numbers on screens, but the real verdict starts forming in the back rooms of the dealerships. Off-the-record truth. Sit on a worn chair in the break room of a multi-brand store, coffee in hand, and the truth sounds different than any press release. One owner will tell you straight. He loves the Harley badge for traffic, but hates seeing a row of brand new touring rigs sit while clean used bikes roll out with much less drama. He will mention that he can still move Harley metal, he just has to cut deeper than he likes, or stack on accessories to make the payment sting feel worth it. When a bike costs what a pickup used to, he knows every stalled sale costs him interest on floor plan. Another dealer, one that carries orange machines alongside Japanese lines, has a separate headache. KTM units pull in riders who read spec sheets, like scripture, yet those riders are picky. One color or trim will vanish fast. Another will sit untouched, even if the bike under the paint is almost the same. He remembers seasons where a certain performance model became a rock in the corner, the kind that needs heavy markdowns, right when he can least afford them. He likes the energy KTM brings into the store. He does not like rolling the dice on high-strung inventory in a town where only a few buyers really push those bikes the way they were built to run. Once you know what the people on the ground are whispering, the importance of product timing comes into sharp focus. Launch discipline. In motorcycles, timing works like valve clearance. A little off, and everything still runs. Too far off, and the whole thing starts to clatter. KTM has built a habit of fast cycle updates. New variants arrive often, bringing a touch more power, a bit less weight, or the latest electronics. When they hit the market right as a segment heats up, it feels like magic. Riders rush in, the press raves, and the bikes leave the floor at full price. When the timing slips, those same sharp machines land into a cooled off market or straight into a pocket where buyers already spent their big money last year. Harley plays a slower, heavier game. Major touring or cruiser revisions come further apart and carry more emotional weight. A new generation of a core platform is supposed to hold the line for years. If that launch is late, rivals have extra time to eat away at the segment. If that launch is rushed, early owners become unpaid test riders, dealing with bugs that should have been sorted at the plant. Once burned like that, riders remember. They start waiting a year or two and pick from the used market instead of lining up early for the latest shiny thing. Once timing is set and metal is rolling, the last judge steps in, holding a title and a bank slip. The real verdict. Forget the slogans on factory posters. Look at registration counts and used listings. That is where the truth lives. When a new Harley touring model still pulls solid new registrations in its key age brackets, you know the story still has some grip. When those same models start stacking up used with low miles and big asking prices slashed again and again, you see belief fading. Riders decide the older rig in the garage rides close enough, or they move sideways into a cheaper, simpler tourer from another brand and pocket the difference. With KTM, you can almost read the health of a platform by watching how long, clean, used examples stay posted. Some core adventure and naked models disappear in days, even with strong asking prices. Others linger, even when they are only a season or two old. That tells you whether buyers see that bike as a must-have or just another sharp toy in a crowded field. Strong resale means confidence that parts, support, and desirability will last. Weak resale means owners are racing to get out before the next revision or before the hype shifts. Riders are not analysts. They live with payments and risk. Keeping old Harleys or quickly flipping KTMs, every choice votes on which badges feel like lifelong anchors or disposable flings. The wild card strategy. KTM has made a clear choice. They want to be the wild card in every serious class they touch. They chase riders who want a machine that feels one step away from a race grid or a rally stage. That is the brand's spine. No soft middle, no good enough. Just sharp bikes that dare you to ride harder. They lean into hardcore performance and real adventure niches. Track day weapons, hard enduro tools, tall, long-legged explorers that feel ready for dirt as much as highway. That focus builds a strong identity. Riders know what orange stands for. It is not comfort first. It is not chrome. It is raw response, suspension that begs for abuse, and motors that wake up at higher revs than a couch bike ever wants to see. A clear, consistent riding feel creates loyalty. Riders forgive quirks, share stories, and stick with brands that still deliver adrenaline and control when roads turn ugly and trips get serious. Once you look at KTM's bet on pure attitude, the question becomes how the old giant is trying to defend its own story. If you want more straight talk on the bikes you actually ride, hit like, subscribe, and tell your story below. Harley's premium story. Harley is not just selling motorcycles. They are selling an image riders spent decades building with their own miles and money. Every big touring rig with hard bags and a trunk, every fat cruiser with a deep seat and pullback bars carried a simple promise. Pay more, get more than transportation. Get a piece of a legend. That is the heart of their premium strategy. Higher trims, special paint, upgraded sound, chrome for days. All priced as if the story alone justifies the note. Premium trims and custom programs try to make each bike feel like yours alone. Limited runs with special badges, factory custom options that let you pick finishes and fit, packages that give you the big motor and the big sound in one hit. On paper, it looks like respect. The factory says, "We know you are picky. We will build it your way." For many riders, it reads differently. They remember when you could buy a solid big twin, ride it coast to coast with a basic seat and windshield, and not need 3 pages of options just to be comfortable. After price and story come off the sales floor, what riders really live with is maintenance, parts, and the quiet time when the bike is stuck on a lift. After the honeymoon, owning a motorcycle past the honeymoon phase is all about how it treats you when something wears out or fails. On a long trip, the strongest logo on the tank means nothing if a simple part strands you in a small town for 3 weeks. That is where parts, availability, and service depth become more than a line in a brochure. They decide whether a bike is a real touring partner or a weekend toy you do not trust. Beyond a certain radius, Harley has spent decades building a thick web of service shops and techs who know their big twins inside out. That network matters. A rider crossing the continent has a good shot at finding someone within a day's tow who can get a touring rig back on the road, with parts pulled from shelves, not distant warehouses. You might not love the bill, yet the path to a fix exists. KTM, with its more focused hardware and leaner dealer spread in many regions, brings a different picture. The bikes can be brilliant in the right hands, yet they often ask for techs who understand complex electronics, tight tolerances, and high-performance setup. Once riders weigh that practical reality against the image and the thrill, the last layer of judgment sits with people who do not turn wrenches at all, yet still decide which brands are allowed to ride out the storm. Wall Street's verdict. In the background, far from any rally or showroom, lenders and big investors stare at their own dashboards. They do not care about sound or paint. They care about volatility and predictable payback. A company tied heavily to performance swings like KTM looks exciting when the line points up. It also looks risky when markets soften, earnings bounce more, launches matter more, and a single misstep can scare cautious money away. That is the nature of backing a brand that sells adrenaline in metal form. Harley presents a different profile to those suits. Heritage, long production runs, a strong used market, and a big installed base of loyal owners all scream stability. At least they used to. When new unit growth slows and the average buyer ages, that stability starts to look more like stagnation. Investors ask whether the brand can still pull younger riders in at prices that support the dividend. Banks ask whether the company can keep servicing debt if 1 or 2 big launches fail in a row. The image of too iconic to fall has limits when numbers argue otherwise. As 2027 nears, the brand banks distrust most will face harsher loans, deeper cuts, and fewer real options. Vultures circling. While riders argue on forums about sound, chrome, and lap times, other companies are already mapping out how to profit if Harley or KTM stumbles. If Harley starts losing ground in big touring and heavy cruisers, you can bet Japanese and European brands sharpen their pencils on full dress machines and long haul rigs. They tweak wind protection, seats, and luggage, and price those bikes just under what a fresh big twin costs. If KTM shows weakness in hardcore adventure or sharp middleweight performance, you will see rival orange, red, green, and blue badges move fast with new hardware aimed at the same riders. Suppliers make the same call, only quieter. Large parts makers who build brakes, suspension, castings, or electronics look at order books and risk. The brand that smells stronger going into the late 2000s. 20s gets better terms, faster allocation, and more support on future projects. The brand that looks shaky may find its suppliers limiting exposure, tightening payment windows, or quietly shifting production capacity toward the likely survivor. That subtle shift means one logo gets quicker updates and more secure sourcing, while the other struggles to keep lead times under control. Once suppliers and rivals start rearranging the map, the shockwave rolls into the towns that built their lives around those logos. Factory town fallout. Behind every tank badge you see on the highway, there is a plant town where families have spent generations casting, machining, welding, and packing those bikes. When a company announces reduced shifts, mothballed lines, or a full plant closure, the first hit is not to a stock price. It lands on those streets. Local diners lose their breakfast crowd. Part stores see fewer paychecks on Friday. Real estate softens as workers drift away in search of steadier work. That is the true cost when a brand loses its footing. State and federal officials watch that kind of pain because it comes with angry calls and ugly headlines. When a big employer falters, governors and mayors start talking incentives, tax breaks, or special deals to keep some production alive. Hearings get scheduled. Cameras show up at gates. Executives get dragged into long tables under harsh lights, asked to explain why a legendary name is leaving a town that gave it everything. Some of that show is real concern. Some is pure theater aimed at voters. Either way, a brand caught in that spotlight takes a hit to its image that smooth advertising cannot fix. As those big public battles unfold, the people feeling the steel to their necks first are not executives. They are the workers on the line, and the techs on the lifts, wrenches and pink slips. When a brand gets into trouble, the first tremors are felt in time cards and toolboxes. Factory workers hear rumors before anyone else. Night shifts get cut. Overtime dries up. Contract workers quietly disappear. Talk of realignment or efficiency reaches the floor long before the press release. Every person on that line has to decide whether to ride out the storm, hope for a rebound, or start looking for a door out of the building. Those choices shape how much real skill stays with a brand. Mechanics and techs in dealerships feel a different sort of pressure. If a manufacturer loses direction, warranty issues climb, parts get harder to source, and customers grow more frustrated. Good techs have options. They can move to another brand, another shop, or even another industry that values their hands. When they see a logo turning into nothing but angry service tickets and unpaid downtime, many quietly start planning an exit. That talent drain does not show up on glossy brochures. Yet riders feel it when the best wrench in town no longer wears that badge on his shirt. After all that noise from plants, politics, and shops, the decision that still matters most sits right in your own garage. Protect your garage. You only control two things in this whole storm: which keys hang on your wall and where you choose to spend money in the years rolling toward the year 2027. If you already own a Harley touring rig or a serious KTM, your first choice is whether to keep riding it hard, freshen it up, or cash out while values hold. That choice depends less on hype and more on what you see locally. Healthy dealers with stocked parts and steady staff mean your bike still has a home. Empty showrooms, missing techs, or constant backorder responses are warning flares. Anyone thinking about buying into either brand over the next few seasons should watch for small signals: a run of dealer closures in your region, quiet dropping of models from catalogs without explanation, loan terms getting harsher for certain bikes while rivals offer softer deals, long shipping times on basic components. Each one is a little knock on the frame. One or two can be noise. A pattern means something deeper is shifting. You do not need to read balance sheets to feel that in the real world. You just need to pay attention to how hard it becomes to buy, service, and enjoy the machines you care about. So, what's the verdict from your garage? Harley's toast? Or is KTM the one bleeding out? Comment below, especially if you've got dealer stories or ownership nightmares to share. If you got something out of this, hit like and subscribe. We've got more brand breakdowns, market warnings, and truth bombs heading your way.